Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today, we'll start this Bava Metzia daf Gimel. We're going to begin on Gimel Amud Aleph, about 8 lines from the top. Lema Masnisin Deloy Rabbi Yossi. So our Mishnah, the beginning of this Masechta, which we began just yesterday, discussed when it came to two people who found an object, each one claiming that they found it first, and therefore claiming that's completely theirs. The requirement is that they would need to make a shvuah, and then they would divide it 50-50. So this is not like Rav Yossi. The Rav Yossi, ha'amar imkin mahivsid ramai. He says that a ramai, someone who's engaged in trickery, is no loss, because he's not going to lose anything. All he does is stand to gain. So what exactly is this case? So Rashi says this is going to be later on in the third parak and parak hamafkid. Shnaim sheif kidu etzel echad. If you have two people that have a bikadoin by one person. So one person is holding on to two different objects. Zeman and Zemasayim, but each one has different value. One's 100, one's 200. So Zemer Masayim Shali, Zemer Masayim Shali. Each one claims that the more expensive item is theirs. Each one gets 100 because there's no argument about 100. However, Bashar, the question of the extra 200, so that one remains until Eliyahu comes. Rav Yosim came out hifsid Ramai. The person who's a Ramai is not going to lose out. V'lama yoide. Why will he ever admit to it? Hari kibo es shalo. He's at least getting what's his. All he does is stand to potentially gain. El hakoli himunach v'afsid Ramai v'hachanami himunach. So instead, he say that because there is obviously a Ramai over here, say that no one gets anything, and then the Ramai will end up saying, okay, you know what, I'm the one with the 100, so at least he'll get his 100 back. So that's a way of deterring a person from lying, or deterring a person from being a Ramai. Now you think the same thing by the Mishnah here. Why do we say we divide it in half? We should say ma hifsid Ramai. So therefore maybe no one gets this talis. El hakol yehimunach ad shiyav Eliyahu. So that's what he holds. So Elamai, what, Rabbanan? So you want to tell me it's like the Rabbanan, the Army Rabbanan, Hashayi hemunach ad shiyav Eliyahu, hanami kishar dame desvekehi. So the case of the monies which are in doubt. So you get 100, you get 100. The extra $100 is a suffix, so that he doesn't get. But the whole talus is a suffix. So according to them, they would also not divide it. So Haimai, Iyam Rabbi Shlomo Rabbanan Hasam Devadai Haimana Dachad Minaihuhu Rabbanan Yihimunachad Shiyav Eliyahu. So in this situation over there, we definitely know that the $100 belongs to one of them. Yet he says, therefore, because that Shiyav Eliyahu, in this situation, it's possible, it's shach to say that actually it belongs to both of them because they could have both picked it up at the same time. So therefore, it's possible that it's true. Each one definitely should get their $100. Still, even though, again, all you're doing is giving the money, which is definitely theirs. So in this situation, it's possible that none of it belongs to the guy. So why would you divide it? So according to him, you would certainly say Mahivsid Ramai. Now, if you'll tell Rav Yossi, Hasam Vadik Ramai, over there by the case of the Pikadain, there's definitely one of them as a Ramai. Maybe again it's shaykh that they picked it up at the same time. They picked it up at the same time, so therefore there's no Ramai over here necessarily. So inami, alternatively, hasam kanasli Rav Yossi Ramai. The reason why by the Pikadain Rav Yossi kanasses the Ramai, so it's kehech the lady. So hopefully he'll admit to it, and therefore we'll find out the truth of the matter. Might say the Islay the lady. This guy is not losing anything because it's a Metzia, it's a found object. Okay, yeah, but that's Tenach Metzia. That's only by the found object. Rather, we have to answer like we said before. Bein lo Rabbanan, bein lo Rav Yossi, bein lo Rabbanan, bein lo Rav Yossi, Hasam Gabe Chenvin El Pinkasai Diktani. Over there, when we talked about, we saw in yesterday's daf about the Chenvini, basically he said, could you do me a favor and pay my workers and then the Poalim say, I never got paid, and the Chenveni says, I did pay them, and now the Baal Bayis is stuck having to pay both of them. So over there, by Chenveni al Pinkasu, Tanya say Nishba v'Noitel, then Nishba v'Noitel, each one should be Nishba v'Noitel. So Maishna Deloyim Rinan Nafkilo Moinim Baal Bayis. Why don't we say, take the money to the from the Baal Bayis, the Himunach Hashiyav Eliyahu, the Havadi Ikaramai. One of them is definitely a Ramai when it comes to that case of the Poalim. So again, one person is lying. So why do we say that the Baal Bayis, there's a shvu over here? It's Ikaramai. So Amri Hasam Hainu Time B'Dir Malei Chenveni Lo Baal Bayis. Because over here the Chenveni, the store owner could say the Baal Bayis, Anna Shlichusa Didach Kavdina. I did your shlichus, that you wanted me to give these workers money. Ma'is li gabi sacher, afa gabdecha mishtabali. What is this by the sacher? Even though he made a shvu, I don't care. Well, mihimili b'shvu, I don't trust this guy. At hem mante, but you believed him because you engaged him in work. Dol amrit ki dol amrit li b'sahadi havle. The sacher nami, the worker could say the same thing. Abdi Avidat, I did work gabach. I was a good worker. Ma'isli gabi chenri. Who is the store owner? Afagad mishtabeli. Even if it makes a shvua, well mehiminli. I don't trust him. Hilchach tirvayu mishtabeya v'shaklu mebal habayis. So by the case of this chenri al pinkasai, it's because we're dealing with other parties, and each one could say, I don't trust this other person's shvua. So therefore, in that situation, they would be able to both make a shvua and take from the Baal Bayis, and the Baal Bayis would obviously lose out. That's because, again, in this situation, it's a unique case. Okay, question 9. Ma'ishna gami shnayim shefkidu etzel echad du Rav Yosi hakol yehimunach or banan mana shlishi, the third $100 yehimunach that's left. Yil gami shnayim ochsin palgi b'shvu. So he says, according to Rav Yosi, over there's definitely a Ramai. Hacha, who says there's a Ramai? Because maybe, again, they picked it up at the same time. According to Banan, this extra, the $100, one of them, we should definitely leave it. Because definitely it doesn't belong to both of them. But when it comes to the talus, it's possible it does belong to half of them each. So therefore, we divide it with a shvua. Okay. All right. Let's continue. All right. 2 dots. Tani Rabbi Chia. So he says the following: Manali biyadcha. Person says that you owe me $100. Lo omer ein lecha biyadi klum. So this is a case of being kofer b'koil. You deny it completely. Ve'edim idenai so sheish loy chamishim zuz. However, there are edim that say that taki you owe $50. So nois lo chamishim zuz. So you have to obviously give the $50 because you have edim. However, when it comes to the other 50, v'yishava al hashar, and we say that you have to make a shua on the rest. As Rashi, kedin moidim mixas ataina, shomatari yishava. When it comes to moidim mixas, if the malvis, someone says you owe me 100, and says no, I only owe you 50, so that's the case of moidim mixas. But over here, it's interesting because the person was really kofer b'koil, but on the whole 100. But since the Edom came and said no, actually you owe 50. So now he's definitely has the 50 he has to pay. So it's considered almost like modem mixas, and he can make a shvua to not have to pay the second 50, which is a big chiddush. So he says like this: Shulo tehei hoidas piv gedoyla mihaedus mahadas edim. That his own admission should not be greater than the witnesses themselves from a Kal V'chomer. And what does that mean? The Gemara is going to explain what the Kal V'chomer is, but the basic idea is that if on his own he could make a shvua to get out, so by witnesses also he can make a shvua to get out. But Tana Tuna, and we also have our Tana can support this. It says as follows: Shnai machzim b'talis, so 2 people on the talis. Now I'm writing Metzia b'chu, which is our Mishnah. Now b'hahacha over here, kivan the toughest, since each one is holding on to the talis. That's an anan sahadi. It's like witnesses. It's like witnesses. The maida tafas haididehu. That which he's holding is his. V'hai umaida tafas haididehu. And what the other person is holding is his. So they're both holding on to half of the garment. V'katani shavet. and we say that a shvua is made. So what do we see? Each one wants to say it's you owe me the whole thing, and the guy says no, and he's actually holding half of it goes to him, but it's an anan sahadi that this is my 50. Nonetheless, we still allow the other guy to make a shvua on the other 50 and take. So my shul tehi odas piv gedoyim hadois eidim mekavachaymer. What exactly is that kavachaymer? Shul time a person should not say like this. Hodas pivhu, when it comes to him, his own admission, Diram Yerachman Shvule Kidraba. We know the famous Gemara we're going to see now, and you can see on the side, it's everywhere in Shas. Now we know what is Hoidas Bal Piv, namely that he admits to the 50. The Eidim, you have the Malva says you owe me 100, and he says no, I owe you 50. We know by the classical case of Moed Mixus that there's a Chiv Shvua Min HaTorah. Kidarabba. Diamar Rabbim Nema Amar Torah Moed Mixus a tiny Shave. Why does he have to make a Shvua Deraisa? Because Chazakin and other Meis Panav Bifnei Bal Chayboy. We know that a person, if you did a toiva for a person, and it's a rachmanos that we don't have this anymore, but it's an interesting svara, that the way it should be is that if someone did you a favor, you're not going to deny and lie to their face that they never did you a toiva. So Bekuli boy denichbere. The truth is that he would love to deny all of it, but he just can't. No person is going to have the chutzpah, again, to just flat out say he owes nothing. So as we continue to Gimel Mabez, he can't now deny the whole thing. Now, therefore, because he's not a Meis Panav, he really would now admit to everything. But he only admitted to half. That's because the only reason why he didn't admit to the whole thing is tamutehu dekamishtamit, meaning he's just trying to push him off a little bit. So Savar, his logic is like this: Ade havli zuzi paranale. It's gonna take me more time to get this loan, all this money back, and therefore eventually I'll get it and I'll give him all the money. So I'm only gonna say 50. I really do owe him 100. In my heart, I know I owe him all 100, but the reality is it's gonna be hard for him to get all that money, so I'm just gonna give him the 50 now, and then hopefully I'll give him 50 later. The Yom Rachmana Rami Shvuale, so the Torah places a shvua upon him, so that he should admit to all of it. Okay? Now, that is when it comes to you admitting yourself. Avol hadas edim, when it comes to witnesses that are the ones that say you owe the $50, so leiklam emer hachi, this whole svara obviously doesn't apply, emulo. So you would maybe think that he would not make a shvua. Kamash shvuan kavachaymer. So the kavachaymer says you do make a shvua. Says Rashi, the leiklam emer hachi shahari kafar b'kulo. He denied the whole thing. So because of that, and person's not Meis Panav, the neighbor migu the chashin mamoyne chashin shvuasa. Maybe you should taka say if in fact he is a chashin on moina because he's being caught for the whole thing, and we're not going to trust his shvu either. Look at the top Rashi. V'chitem migu the chashin mamoyne chashin shvuasa. Loy chashin mamoyne lefi shibritzono hayamoydim kula. He really wants to admit to everything. Oh, shein biyadol leproi. He just doesn't have the money. So it's not that he's not considered to be a chashin mamoyna, that therefore he should be chashin on a shvua. Because if that's the case, you're not going to have him make a shvua because you don't trust him because he's a thief. But that's not the situation when it comes to Moed Nixas, because he's just the shtam. He's just trying to push him off. Uma kavachaymer. Uma piv back in the Gemara she'ein michayvo mamin. When it comes to your own money, your own mouth, with your own admission, you cannot be mechayev mamoin. The Gemara is going to explain what that means later on. Mechayev shvua. Nonetheless, you have to pay on the rest. So Eidim, Shemachayim and Oisamomen, we know witnesses come and say that you owe something, you have to pay whatever was testified about you. And Udin, Shemachayim and also Shavua. Then certainly you should have to make a Shavua on the rest. Upiv in Mechayev Mamoin, what do you mean your mouth, you cannot be Chayev Mamoin? Hodas Baldin Kmei Eidim Dami. We know it's not true. You could say, I owe you $1,000. Okay, you're admitting that's Hadas Baldin, that's Kamei Eidim, that's a kilo like 100 witnesses. So of course you could do that. What do you mean? Well, what is this whole Kavachaymer that Ma Piv Shein Mechayvo Mammon based on your own words? It's not true. We say Pumfakert, Hadas Baldin Kamei Eidim. So no, my Mammon Kanas. So it means like this. This is how you're supposed to read it. Ma Piv Shein Mechayvo Kanas. When it comes to a Piv, you cannot be Chayav Kanas, because we have the din, as we saw in Bava Kama, numerous places, the Moed of Kanas Potter, based on the pasuk Asher Shina Lokim, which is Prat L'Marshias Atzmai. You can't make yourself into a rasha. So therefore, because of that, when it comes to a kanas, so you cannot be moed b'kanas. So you're not going to be chayiv. So nonetheless, mechayiv shvua, but you can still mechayiv yourself a shvua. So edim shemechayiv anosa kanas. If you have witnesses that say you owe kanas, you have to pay it. And udin shemechayiv anosa shvua. So that's a kavachamer. Yeah, but mal piv shechein mechayiv carbon. When it comes to your own admission, you can be chayiv a carbon because the pasuk says this vada asher chata v'hevi. Tarmer be'edim shin mechayiv anosa carbon. However, when it comes to witnesses, let's say that there's some type of a contradiction or the sort. So in that situation, they cannot mechayiv you a carbon. So halukasher and bechia krameir svirule. The armor edim mechayiv anosa carbon mekavachimer. Actually, edim can also mechayiv a person from a carbon. So that's actually not so true. Did not, because we learn like this. Amrulo shnayim achalta. Amrulo shnayim. So two people said achalta chelev. You ate non-kosher fats. In which, since you did a b'shoigig, you have a chiyuv to have to bring a carbon. And you said, no, I did not eat it. So you have a machlokus whether or not we listen to the edim. So Rameir actually says that the edim can be mechayiv you a carbon. So Rameir im hevi uhu shnayim lidei misa chamura. If two witnesses can come and sentence you to death, say that you're a murderer, so lo yaviuhu lidei carbon akal doesn't make any sense. Of course, they could be mechayiv you a carbon. If they can actually have you sentenced to death, so then of course you're gonna they could be able to require you to bring a carbon, which is obviously not as significant. So what are you talking about? So Ramali said no. Ma'im yirtzel loimer meizadisi yipater. The truth is, there's a way that you could have gotten out of it, because if you said that I ate this chayla, but no, it's not b'shoigeg, but it was b'mezid, then you wouldn't bring a carbon, because you cannot bring a carbon in this situation unless you did it. You ate the chayla b'shoigeg. However, if you ate it b'mezid, so you're going to be potter. So elo malapiv shechein mechayav asham. So when it comes to your own admission, you can be chayav a carbon asham. Asham hanu carbon. I mean, that's the same thing as a carbon. We're talking elo malapiv shechein mechayav chaimish. You have to pay the additional 5. If you're a nishba, made a shvu, and you're kafar mamoin, and you admit, so there's a chayav of chaimish, of paying an additional 5th in addition to the karen. Halakasher b'chiyam karameir svirle kihechna mechayiv carbon mekavachaymer mechayiv chaimish mekavachaymer. You can also be mechayiv chaimish from a kavachaymer from the same reasoning. So therefore, that doesn't work either, because the edim can also, if the edim can be mechayiv you a carbon, the edim can be mechayiv you as well to pay chaimish. Elo malapiv shechein eno b'hachasha v'hazama. So what does that mean? So when it comes to your own admission, there's no contradicting or plotting witnesses. Says Rashi, im hoidel b'mana. If you admitted that you owe 100, uval edim, witnesses come v'hechishuhu and contradict you. Loimer einacha chayav lo klum, you owe nothing. Eino nifter b'kach, you're not potter dadas bal din k'mei edim, because there is this concept of your admission works. So when it comes to your own words, there's no hachasha. So in other words, the witnesses come, and even if they're mazim you, it doesn't mean anything, and there's no hachasha, which basically means, again, if they contradict you, you still have to pay it. So when it comes to edim, there is a din of hachasha, that if two witnesses come and contradict or mazim the first group, then you don't pay because of them. So rather we learn it out all from a single witness. Says Rashi, where do we learn a shvua? D'shnayim mishvua de'ed echad. We learn it from one witness. Mad le'ed echad shechein al ma she'ed meid hu nishma la'chishay. So not see the Gemara. So what is the one witness? Ma eid echad she'en mechaybu mamoin. We know that one witness cannot make the person pay, but mechayiv shvu, it can make a person swear. Edim shemechayiv also mammon, they could be mechayiv mammon, and udin shemechayiv also shvu. So we see that's the kavachimer that edim are able to mechayiv you a shvu. Yabel mali echad shechein al mashu made hu nishba. When it comes to one witness, whatever they testify is what you make a shvu on. Right? So this is what Rashi says. In other words, the Eid Echad, he says that you owe a certain amount, and you make a shvua to contradict that, right? That money, and therefore you don't have to pay that money. Toimer, as we continue to Dalet and Aleph, be'edim she'alma shekafrahu nishba. So he's chayav to pay what the two edim say. He's chayav. He can't make a shvua on that to pater himself. So how do we see on what they don't testify? So that's the problem, and therefore we're actually still in the middle of trying to understand what exactly is this Kal V'chomer. Can't continue with that. We have to see that in tomorrow's daf. All right, let's see if maybe we have another question looming around here. Question 10. Tani Rabbi Amani biyadcha ve'edem edem ha'aser sheish loy nunzuz ma'asvara deloy dami l'moedim b'mixas deraisa. Why is it not comparable to b'moedim b'mixas? Why is it not a proof? So we can't compare it to moedim b'mixas deraisa because when it dealing with kofer kol, you can say migu dechashnu b'moedim chashna shvuasa, right? When it comes to again, when we're dealing with hadas edim, which again we're talking about a case where he's kofer bakol, you cannot say this because let me just find this Rashi. So therefore, you can't make this taina. It's not the same thing as being kofer, being moed b'mixas. Avol moed b'mixas mishtamid. So again, by moed b'mixas, you're not chayshna mamoin. It's just you're delaying it. When you're kofer bakol, and then witnesses come, so in that situation, you potentially are chayshid amamoina. So therefore, it's not the same thing, and therefore maybe you're chashid on the shvua, and there you can make a shvua. And our Mishnah of Shnai Machzin is not a proof, even though each one is holding on to it. And we said, well, it's a proof because I'm holding on to it. This is like like witnesses that it's mine. Nonetheless, you're still able to swear on the rest, on the other half, and take. So he said it's not a proof. The hacha ika sahadi lahai ulahai. V'dami le'edim de'amri chamishim chayav v'chamishim para dolo mishtaba. So maybe in that situation she would not be made. Okay, fine. TA 19. Elu beis chomer seish b'piv yosim edim. Echad l'kul miyav echad l'chad tana. So one is your machayev carbon v'chaimish according to Rabbanan and Rameir. What exactly is this question? Bepiv yosim edim. So you could be chayiv bepiv a carbon and chaimish, but maybe not TA 19 if it's with edim. Maybe edim don't have the capacity to be able to mechayiv you a carbon. That's what he said. So the question is the chamim poitrin. Chamim say that you're potter from a carbon and also halukasher b'chiyah v'kar svirle. So also when it comes to mechayiv asham hainu carbon, and then we end up saying shechin mechayiv chaimish. So that is one point, and that's according to one shita. However, enu b'hachashav hazama, an eid echad certainly is not. Let me find this. Eid echad, lepiv rather, is not b'hachashav hazama, because even if you contradict, because there's hadas baldin k'mei edim dami, so therefore we don't care if there's a witness against you. However, when it comes to edim, and then a second group is machish them or mazim them, then you don't have to pay. So therefore we see, again, now let's see the question again, two chumras by piv more than edim. So one is carbon or chaimish, and also that you still have to pay because hodas baldin, even though there's hachash and hazama. Question TB20. Me'elu chayuve shvua lomad Rav Chil maskana b'ma'at sad l'chayev shvua moed mixas aydei ha'edim hadas edim. So this we didn't completely see, so we'll have to see this in tomorrow's daf. Adka.